Namaste, y'all.
All right.
All right, Jera.
At a good distance, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just checking.
So, guys, I'm here with Jera in my Brooklyn apartment, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see her, and we're waving at you right now.
Hi.
I always like to start by telling people how we met.
Yeah.
And I think that we've been aware of each other on Instagram for quite a long time.
Quite a while.
And then we met in person for the first time at a Four Seasons event that we both went to.
Did we not meet at the Sage event before that?
We did.
Yeah, that was
right.
but I don't think we talked a whole lot there because there's a lot of people.
That's right.
Right.
So we went to this wellness influencer brunch where we got to really share some things that we were going through on a more vulnerable level than your usual influencer brunch events.
Yes.
So we also have this crystal here. It's a clear quartz that clears the energy and amplifies your inner knowing and your inner wayfinding. So at the other event, we ran into each other again, and we really connected because we were both going through pivoting in our projects, in our Instagram things, and I'm excited to have you here today to just hear about your journey and how you got into this whole Instagram business, entrepreneur boss babe game. And let's get to the most interesting part first.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
So what's making you feel woke?
Oh my goodness. Great question. I think that I recently made a really big and really challenging decision in terms of changing my career and leaving behind something that I fought really hard for, but then decided wasn't right for me, and just sort of owning that decision and realizing that I have to trust my gut and follow what that feels like. I think that's what is making me feel very woke.
What does that feel like?
I think it feels very empowering to not hold back because of your past or what you thought once defined you. If I'm getting more specific about it, SoulCycle is something that really defined me because it's something that I worked really hard for in order to become an instructor, and it's something that I dreamed about night and day for several years.
Like a lot of people out there.
Yeah, I think that applies to a lot of situations. And I became an instructor, and I taught for about a year and a half, and I recently decided to leave, and that was a huge decision for me. And I think to own that decision, despite of worrying what other people are going to think, or thinking, you know, you fought so hard for this, why are you now making this big change? It's just like, all right, this is my decision. I'm going to own this, and I'm going to move forward with it, and it feels really powerful.
So what do you think changed from the moment where you decided to become a SoulCycle instructor, and when you got into the whole fitness world, to now? What was the biggest lesson you learned from really going into this wellness fitness world deep?
Yeah, well, despite realizing that SoulCycle wasn't right for me, the journey of that entire process was really transformative and really important in becoming who I am currently. And really fighting for fighting for a position that I was so unqualified for. Like, I had no background in fitness instruction. I had a terrible fear of public speaking. I had just no idea what I was doing, but still fighting for something, even when you're really unsure and you don't have all the tools in your toolkit, just shows that you're willing to stand up for yourself and go for something.
So let's circle back to how you got into the fitness world to begin with, as someone who was not a fitness instructor, someone who was actually a graphic designer.
Yes.
If you guys follow Jera on Instagram, you probably know a little bit about her story, but in this talk, we're gonna dig a little deeper. So stay tuned, it's about to get very interesting.
So I got into the fitness world kind of on a whim. I had been fairly athletic growing up. I played basketball for a little bit. I discovered spinning in college at my college gym, and it was 2015, and I had been through a pretty rough 2-ish years of being in a job that I was very unhappy with, to the point I was losing hair and just completely exhausted 7 days a week. And I had just come out of a 4-year relationship, and that was pretty challenging and sort of heartbreaking to end. And I woke up one day, and I think without thinking, oh, I need to do something good for myself. I think that was something a message that was coming from inside. And I decided to buy Kayla Itsines workout guides, and I've been following her for about a year or so on Instagram. So I was familiar with the transformations that she posted. And I went to the gym and I started week one of the BBG guide. And that same day, I also made an Instagram account for myself, just because that's what all the other girls were doing. And a couple things happened. I was sticking to the workout guides because they're pretty easy to follow, and having an Instagram account also kept myself accountable because I was connecting with other people doing the same workouts as I was. And I started to make these female connections with other women doing the BBG guides. And that felt really good because at that time I didn't really have many friends in my life. So having those female connections all of a sudden felt like a really powerful thing that I was really lacking elsewhere. And third, I discovered that I really loved social media, and I loved thinking about things to post and coming up with content and connecting with people in that way. So over the course of 3 months, I got about 15,000 followers. Whoa. Which is like absolutely insane.
What did you do? How did that happen?
I think that the Kayla Itsines community at the time was this very small, tight-knit community, but very quickly growing. And all the girls there were looking to be very supportive and connecting with all the other women doing the program. So it was this breeding ground for content and followers and support. So I think that starting off with Kayla Itsines in those initial months was really huge for both fitness for me personally, and also for actually creating an account that had followers in terms of growing in that sense.
Were you into social media at all before that, or was that sort of a new thing for you? As we're sipping on our Vital Proteins matcha
on our collagen matcha. Oh, was I into social media? So I was a little bit here and there. I had my personal account, and then I actually had an art account that was linked to my graphic design.
Is that still out on the internet?
Yes, so I was at Bean Robin. That was my hand lettering account. And I posted like my drawings and my different lettering pieces that I did. And I did find some connection through that realm, which I really enjoyed. And I think that was almost the first stepping stone for creating my account at the time, which was Workout Bean. That was my original fitness account. But there was connection that I found through my art account that I really enjoyed in like the Instagram space.
Do you remember when you first got into, whether it was social media or like a chat room or a messenger?
Like back in the day?
Back in the day, what was the first thing you remember?
I remember like AOL and getting the CDs, and you would like pop them into your computer and you'd get the newest AOL, and like there being 4 chat rooms that existed and like logging in and like just talking to people and wanting to connect to other people watching like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something like that. And then it evolved from there, but that's probably my earliest memory of talking to people.
What was your nickname on that?
Oh my god, I think I had a couple screen names, but my original one that like lasted for several years was Shooting Star 0000 at AOL.com.
What does that mean? Let's see.
I don't know. I don't even think I have a star tattoo. No, I don't know, man. I was just Shooting Star.
That's so fascinating. Do you remember what your favorite computer game growing up was?
Oh, I wasn't really super into computer video games. Like computer video games, my god. I remember I had this one dancing game, Busted Groove on like PlayStation. I don't know, I was not very good at it, but I played that sometimes. And I loved like some Mario on my Game Boy.
Oh yeah.
But I wasn't super into video games.
What's the thing you miss the most about growing up without social media?
I had this moment last night on the train, because I always sit on the train with my phone and, you know, trying to respond to emails and DMs and comments. And I looked up and I counted the amount of people in the subway car, because it wasn't very many. It was like basically just the amount of people who could fit in the seats. And like there were 20 people, and like 16 of them were all either on their phones or holding their phone in their hand. And it's like, and I do the same thing. I'm just like, why do I need to have my phone in my hand all the time if I'm not using it? It's crazy. But I think maybe I don't really think about that too much, but I miss that in a sense. It's like we're so tied to just the physicality of our phones, like just holding it and checking it even when there's no need to check it. So I think it was kind of nice before when we weren't like so tied to these devices that control our lives.
We really are tied, and we let them control them. And you know, whenever I get aware of myself being on the phone all the time, even when I'm not using it, just like you said, it kind of scares me when I look around in the subway. Like 90% of people are on their phones, and probably 14 of them, like out of the 16, are on Instagram.
Right. It's crazy. I mean, it's good because that's our business, but it's also not so great in other ways too.
Let's get to that. Would you say that Instagram changed your life?
Instagram, without fail, changed my life. Like, there's no question about it. It changed my life in a extremely positive way.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, no hesitation.
So tell me a little more. What was the progression between you starting the account, it starting to grow, and when were you like, oh wow, I'm spending so much time on this, I probably can charge money for the content I create for brands?
Yeah. It's funny because I think that the term influencer has, oh yeah, no worries.
While we're pausing because of the crazy New York noises, I actually want to give you another crystal.
Oh, please do. I'm gonna scroll through the comments and see if we've, oh, hi guys. See if anyone has said anything.
Hey guys, taking a little crystal break here. I'm giving Jera the Crystal Criminal's Amethyst, because amethyst is the most calming, stress and anxiety relieving stone, and this one is really bright purple, which makes it even more potent.
I love it.
Would you like to hold it?
Yes, I would. Hold on, wait.
It feels so good.
Put this up here.
So actually, before we get back to this, why don't you hold it and let me know what you feel?
Okay. It feels kind of calming but energizing at the same time. That's
Where did you feel in your body?
I think sort of in my hands, and then sort of like in this area as well.
And I'm gonna take this. I want to reconnect to my purpose, and quartz does that. So
Love that.
Okay.
Where were we?
What was the progression between you starting your account, starting the BBG guide, and then figuring out, oh wow, this could be a business?
Right. I think that now, because the role of the influencer is so much more prominent and there's way more people doing it than in 2015, that if this was to happen in current day, I think I could have started charging earlier, and realizing that Workout Bean, or Jera Bean now, was actually a business. But let's see, I think that the main marker was when I left my graphic design job. So I started my account in April 2015, and then I left my office job in September 2015, and I started just taking freelance work. And I didn't really know what I was gonna do in my free time, but I was like, I need to create space in order to figure that out. So a few things happened. I continued working as a graphic designer freelance. I started studying for my NASM certification, which is the personal training certification. Eventually got that. I went on a road trip with some of my girlfriends from high school, from Portland to LA over the course of almost 2 weeks, and that was just sort of this freeing moment because I hadn't had that in a while. And then some things were sort of brewing as that was all happening. Adidas reached out, and I eventually became an ambassador for them, which is like,
deal, guys.
It's just like still mind-boggling to me that that is true and real.
Why do you think they reached out to you?
It's a great question. No one's ever asked me that before. I think that there's a couple of things. I think that I've done a really good job of creating community through my account, and people who feel like they're both connected to me and connected to other people through my posts and through my content. And I think that I'm really good at just showcasing me, like what you see on my posts, what you see on my Insta stories. That's just me in real life. Like there is no faking of a personality or putting on something that's not real. And I think they easily pick up on that, and they want to not just be a brand, they want to be connected to other people doing innovative things and being their authentic selves.
Totally.
I always appreciate when there's at least some effort of, oh, I saw your recent post and that really connected with me, or I've seen this theme over the past couple weeks and that resonated with me. So when they actually take time to research who they're reaching out to, it always makes a big impact in that initial email.
Totally. Especially the kind of emails that touch me the most when it comes to possible partnerships is when someone reaches out and says, hey, I've been following you for 3 years.
Yeah.
You inspired me to drink my first green smoothie and you transformed my mornings. And now I work for this company and I would want to pay you money to do something with us. Like, that's my favorite, when people have seen the journey, know my values, and there's just like such deeper foundation for working together.
Totally. On that note, not that it's brand related, but there's a gal who I ran into at an Adidas event earlier this week, and she's like, I started following you when you had like 50 followers. She's been following me almost this whole time, and I was just like, that is so special and so crazy and so wonderful. So yeah, there's something about people who have been with you for a large portion of the ride.
How do you think you have changed since before you were Insta famous, as someone would say, to now when people probably recognize you on the street every day?
I think that I have changed a lot. I think that I have gained a lot of confidence. I have had to face a lot of fears along the way, and that's partly due to SoulCycle as well. So SoulCycle and Instagram. And just sort of, there's this one phrase that has stuck with me for a while, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I feel like that has been a theme of like the past 3 years, both with Instagram and SoulCycle and making career changes and moving to a new apartment and now pursuing my business completely on my own. I think it's given me the confidence to feel the fear and do it anyway.
What's the biggest business fear that you can think of facing and then doing it anyway? And what was the learning on the other side of it?
I think probably the biggest one that at least I've experienced so far is what I just went through with leaving SoulCycle and then deciding to take on Instagram and my brand and hopefully expanding past that full time, because there is no guaranteed money in this. Like, you know, I get paid to work with brands or go to events, and perhaps 2 deals came in this month, but perhaps 0 deals come in the next month. So there's no guarantee like a stable job, there's no health insurance or anything like that. So you're kind of betting on yourself. But when you bet on yourself, I think that it inspires you to hustle that much harder and really care about what you're doing and the content you're putting out there and the deals that you're trying to make, and the connections you're trying to form. It just makes you work that much harder, I think.
Totally. And you know that down the line, that's going towards you and your business and not some other corporation. So I think that's the most fulfilling thing.
Yeah, the work you put in is for you and your future. It's not for someone else.
Exactly. But at the same time, that's actually a thing that's been coming up for me, is I'm realizing that brand partnership, yes. So the way that if you guys are listening, you might be a blogger yourself, you might not be, you might not even be sure how we both make money being bloggers and, as someone would say, influencers. The way that works, a brand reaches out and says, hey, we're doing this activation and your message aligns with ours and we would like you to create content, and hopefully it's an authentic alignment where we get to create what we experience and how we use their product and then share it with our audiences.
Right.
So, you know, it's making me think that even though, yes, I also am creating content for myself while I'm doing that, most contracts say that that content belongs to the brands.
Right.
And most of the time down the line, they're benefiting more than we are. So it's like pretty short-term gain and short-term business vision. So have you thought about that, and what are your thoughts on where you can take your business to, so that you have better control over money coming into your account?
Sure. I think that there's only so much that one can do when it comes to the one-off posts, kind of like what you were just mentioning. It's great because we need money and we need to support ourselves, and we want to work with brands that are interested in us and that we are also interested in. But that one-off post isn't going to happen next month. So what's the larger picture? Like for me, I would love to continue to either do those one-off posts or create longer-term partnerships where there's a couple posts a month and then there's a little bit more of a stronger relationship with the brand in an ongoing sense. But for me right now, I'm trying to think like, what can I do that expands my content, expands my reach, and the most important, expands my how I affect people and inspire people. So I don't have the answer as to what that is yet. I'm very much trying to figure it out, but I think that there's only so much that we can do online, and there's a really powerful thing that happens when we take our online presence and make it an offline presence. So I don't know if that means like, you know, public speaking or workshops or panels where I can connect to people in real life and share whatever skills and knowledge I have, but that is something that's sort of drumming up in the back of my mind because I don't just want to do one-off posts for brands forever.
And you do have a panel coming up.
I do.
Tell us more about that.
Oh my goodness. I'm so nervous for it. So in July, mid-July, I have to look at the exact date, I'm doing a Boss Babe panel for a company called The Financial Gym, which is a financial planning services company, which I use, and they're awesome if anyone needs help with that. And the panel is me and 3 or 4 other women who are their own bosses, creating their own paths, and have their own businesses. And they reached out to me, I got the email, and I sort of just ignored the email at first because I was like, oh, I don't want to be on a panel, like I'll just think this over, and I kind of forgot about it. My friend ended up sending me a text, and she's like, oh, I hear you're going to be on the panel, I'm going to be on it too. And I was like, well, first of all, I didn't agree to do it yet, so there was that problem. And then I just told her that I was feeling very hesitant about doing it because I felt odd being up on a panel, being considered a boss babe, thinking, what kind of authority do I have to give people advice when I just started doing this and I really have no idea what I'm doing, and like, am I a boss babe? I don't know. So I loved Mina's response back to me because she was like, listen, I feel the same way. Like, I don't have everything figured out. I don't have all the answers, but I'm getting up there as someone who is a person in flux, who's figuring it out. And I think that perspective can be really valuable to people listening. You don't have to have it all figured out in order to give advice and to share your experience with everyone.
Totally. Yeah, we were just talking about this before we started recording, that you actually learn more a lot of the time hearing from people who are in this journey and learning and failing than people who already are at the top or like farther away, like way farther away in the journey. Right. Because when they were building their business, the circumstances were different. Anyway, so I am going to do this. I'm going to read your bio out loud. Okay. And you're going to tell me what it is that you actually do, what's behind this.
Great.
So, Jera Foster-Fell, NYC creator, magic emoji, empowering women to get out of their comfort zones and not take life too seriously. Lifestyle, fitness, confidence, Adidas ambassador.
That's me.
So what's up? What do you actually do?
So I'm actually glad that you read this because I recently changed it after doing a little workshop panel on how to brand yourself. And this was just my first go. So this was not something that I felt was totally final, but I was like, you know what? Rather than just sitting and thinking about it and trying to make it the most perfect thing ever, let me just get something up there and we'll see how it feels, and I can always edit it. Thank goodness for editing Instagram bios.
Yes. Like it means like every week. Who am I this week?
I know, it's like how things changed over the last 24 hours. But instead of just simply listing who I am, I also want to think about what it is that I do and hopefully that I want to continue doing. And I hope that through my account, I accomplish a couple things. Through, sometimes it's more silly, goofy things like, you know, style, or I show my dog Spicy Grandpa, or beauty products, or sometimes it's the more deep, introspective things like speaking about mental health or past challenges that I've had. I hope through all of those like topical and more deeper topics that I inspire women to find confidence in themselves, just as who they are right now, and also to get out of their comfort zones and try new things, whether that's a really small thing like coming to an event where you don't know anyone and you work out with a bunch of girls and meet them, or maybe it's a much bigger thing like leaving your job if you're miserable and you hate it and you try something new. So those are sort of the main themes that I try and convey and I guess preach through my Instagram.
And with all of that, what's the business model?
Ooh, a great question. Asking the tough questions. I don't really have one right now because this is so new for me. I just started working with an agency, which is very exciting because I feel like I need someone else on board to be not necessarily like the strategy and the creative, but like I need another set of like ears and minds and heart to sort of complement what I'm doing. So I'm just starting to kind of hone in on some strategy with them and think a little bit more long term. So that's the only answer I have for you right now because I'm like figuring it out big time, but I'm hoping in the next coming months to solidify that a little bit more.
And hey, you know, I used to give myself such a hard time for not having a strategy. And I also came to this breaking point where, oh, I should have a brand strategist. I should have someone to tell me how to do an Excel sheet and a business plan. And then I looked back and I was like, wait, hold on. Without any plans, without any business strategy, I was able to travel the world, make money, impact people positively all over the world. So I'm not doing that bad.
You're like, I must know something at this point, right? Yeah.
So for you, you know, with your vision of empowering people to get out of their comfort zones and to feel more confident, where inside yourself do you go and how do you get there?
I think I definitely, because I consider myself an introvert, very much thrive on alone time. Like I get my energy and feeling centered from just like going home and chilling and hanging out with my dog and just having time. So I don't think there's any specific like ritual or even like taking baths. I don't even really do that. It's like mostly just kind of spending time by myself. And I definitely love, I think like anytime I'm super anxious, I do find that breathing has a pretty big effect on me and just sort of centers me a bit. So yeah, I think it's like kind of this general idea of alone time and just having time to reflect by myself in my apartment with my dog.
I think you're setting such a good example of just giving people ease. I don't need to know everything. I don't need to have a plan. Just like taking it day by day and going what feels good in the moment.
Yeah.
And sort of letting joy be your compass because BBG felt cool and joyful, right?
Right. Yeah. I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have all the answers and have this grand plan or have a business plan for ourselves or just have some sort of idea of what we're doing. And especially in our 20s, I think it's so crucial to explore. And just because you work really hard for something, whether it's a job or even a relationship, we change and we are allowed to change and we can become someone else and have our dreams change with that. So just because you work for something and then achieve it doesn't mean that you can't later take a fork in the road and take a different path.
Yeah. So I have this firm belief that however we're feeling about ourselves, about our business, about what we're doing on the inside gets reflected online, specifically on Instagram.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm curious to see if you have noticed that.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Well, the first thing that I can think of is that not too long after leaving SoulCycle, because I post a lot on Insta stories every day, I'm just talking to the camera, I got a lot of messages, people telling me how happy I looked, or I still get those now, and how much younger I look, and just sort of revived and glowing. And I wasn't doing, I mean, maybe there's a little bit more self-tanner on or something like that. But to me, that just reflected such a huge change in the lifestyle that I had just made. Because at SoulCycle, even though, you know, I have so much love for it still, it's quite a special place. But I was just exhausted all the time, mentally, physically, and just the life had been sucked out of me. And then to leave and no longer be teaching 3 classes a day and finally have some time to sleep and recharge and even take a break from exercising, which I have been over the last month or two, I think that really reflected for sure through my physical appearance and then certainly through my posts. I think there was sort of a resurgence of creativity that I had been lacking for a while because with SoulCycle, it takes so much time and energy that it was really hard to maintain good content.
So it's that energy that we put into whatever content we create that people really pick up on.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't make sense to just push yourself because you have this schedule and you just need to schedule and produce a certain amount of content, but it's really the vibes behind that people pick up on.
Yeah.
I love that. So to wrap this up, what would you tell maybe like 3 tips or pieces of advice to someone who is just finding their way in this online world and wants to establish a strong online brand? And whether you believe it or not that you're a boss babe, you are a boss babe.
Thank you.
So what would you tell someone who is, or maybe what would you tell yourself when you just had 50 followers and when you were just starting out?
I think it's easy to get wrapped up in the idea that, oh, there's a million influencers now, and if you're into fitness, like there's a million fitness influencers, or if you're into food, same thing. And it's easy to get wrapped up in this idea of like, oh, everyone else is doing it, so there's no place for me, or my content has less value than them. But every person is different. We all have our own personalities. We all have our different nuggets of wisdom that we can share, and we all have our own voice, and that's what makes us individually so unique. So you have to give value to what you know, to what you want to share, and to what you want to create. And I think once you start to have belief in your worth in terms of the content you can create, that's going to show, and that's going to be your unique message in what you put out there. And there's so much value in that.
And how do you believe in your worth?
Oh my goodness. Coming into more hard questions here. How do you believe in your worth? Wow. I think it's a feeling. I think you know when you are creating and innovating and feeling good about what you're doing. I think that's what it comes down to. You know your worth through a feeling. It's not this tangible thing. It's something that you have to experience and actively pursue, because I don't think people just walk around being like, yo, I'm so worthy today, you know? I think it's something you have to practice actively seeking and feeling.
And if you were to name that feeling, what is it?
I mean, I don't think it can just be one word. I think it would have to be something like some of these strong words like confidence and empowerment and love and passion. It's sort of these strong, bold words that maybe seem a little bit vague, but if we work towards them, it's something that we can actively feel.
And if you guys are listening, you're like, okay, these words sound amazing, but how do I actually embody that and take that on? I want to offer you this practice that changed my life.
Oh,
and
ready.
It's affirmations.
Okay.
And so, you know, the high level of it is to actually stand in front of a mirror and tell yourself, I am all these things. But a more subtle way into that I have adapted. Every single morning I take out my journal and I write down 3 ways I want to feel. So for example, you know, if we're talking about feeling worthy and the feeling associated with that, you would take out your journal and say, and write down, I am worthy, I am confident, I am bold. And just sitting with it for a moment, taking a deep breath and letting yourself set that direction for the day changes everything. Because if we don't create that intention of how we want to feel for the day, and that's why I do Breakfast Criminals, you know, all about those morning intentions, whether it takes shape of food or affirmations or intentions. And when we set that sort of like marker and flag of how we want to feel, the universe kind of just throws opportunities at us so that we can feel that way.
I gotta start doing that.
You already are that.
Okay, but maybe like you said, like do that specifically.
Totally. Yeah, I'm like, can't wait to see what happens when you take what you already are and amplify that. We're doing affirmations. Wow, what a great conversation, guys. We gotta run. We have a cacao ceremony coming up, and it's Jera's first.
I have no idea what that is, and I'm so excited.
And please DM myself at Woke and Wired and Jera.Bean, Jera.Bean, and post on stories what you're taking away from this episode. We really love receiving messages, and you know how people say when you get to a certain amount of followers, you don't respond. That's not us. So DM us.
Yes, please. We want to hear from you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, girl.
Okay, so
sweet. I feel nervous.
Okay, close your eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, deep breath. Sending it all the way down to your feet, and just allowing yourself to be a clear channel and letting whatever needs to come through in this conversation come through, and knowing that there's no one else you need to be and nothing to say other than what's happening in the moment.
Love that.
If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends, leave a review, and find all the show notes on wokeandwired.com and connect with me on Instagram @wokeandwired. Stay woke, stay wired, and have an incredible day.